So today I want to go over the nervous system and just give a quick review of how that all works together. So the first thing I want to start off with, what is the structure of the nervous system? So the brain and spinal cord are what we call our CNS. There's kind of two systems within the nervous system. So there's the CNS, the central nervous system, and all that is just your brain and spinal cord working together. Your peripheral nervous system, or your PNS, is everything else. It's all the senses, nerves, and everything else besides the brain and spinal cord. So your central nervous system, brain, spinal cord, your peripheral nervous system. PNS is your every other nerve that you have in your body. So all your touches and scents and smells and every other thing besides your brain and spinal cord is your PNS. How your brain works. There's kind of three different parts to your brain. So starting with the most basic, your medulla. Your medulla might also be called the brainstem, but your medulla is what you first start out with. And it controls every non-voluntary process or involuntary process. So breathing, heart rate, sleeping, your digestion, everything that you don't have to think about but you desperately need to survive, your medulla takes care of that. Moving on from your medulla, your cerebellum. Your cerebellum is important for all your movement. So balance, positioning, coordination, any athletic movement you make, your cerebellum is responsible for that athletic movement. And it's in the back of your head, right next to your brainstem or your medulla. Then the last part is probably the part that people think of most when they think of the brain. It's that big top part of the brain with all the wrinkles and everything that you see. And that is your cerebrum. Your cerebrum has all those things that you would think that a brain controls. So, memory. Memories are stored up here. Your thinking and your cognitive problem-solving skills are right up front. So if you have a tough math problem, this is what you're going to use in order to solve that problem. This is also responsible for decision making. So making a good decision. A lot of times, younger people don't have this developed yet. So it's not fully developed until you're about 25, 26. So 14 and 13-year-olds continually make bad choices because this frontal cortex is not developed yet. You also have in the back of your head responsible for sight. Your cerebrum right here responsible for hearing. So all those things take place in your brain. Those are the things that we consciously control. So our thinking, memories, and then these parts kind of decode some of our senses. So those are three parts of the brain. And then if we wanted to break down how the nervous system works. So we said that central nervous system is your brain and spinal cord. Your peripheral nervous system is everything else. So in particular, we have motor neurons and sensory neurons. Motor neurons are the ones that send signals to your muscles to move. So anytime you move, that's because a motor neuron told your muscle to flex. Anytime you feel a sense, so sense of smell, touch, taste, anything that deals with the senses, those are telling your brain what's going on. So if I put my hand on something and it's hot, my sensory neurons told my brain that it was hot. These are some other divisions of how they work, but I am not too concerned with you guys as 8th graders knowing these yet. You may have to when you move on to high school, but for right now, I just want to focus on the peripheral nervous system and central nervous system, and then the two parts of each of those. So that's all I'm concerned about. So how this all works. Let's say I have a sense down here. My sensory neuron is going to go up, and it's going to talk to my spinal cord. My spinal cord is going to go up and talk to my brain, and whatever part of the brain it's dealing with. So if it's dealing with, pain or whatever, then it's either going to talk to my cerebellum or cerebrum. It tells my brain what's going on. My brain decides what it needs to do. So let's say I got hit there, and so my first reaction is to hold my knee. So it's going to send a signal down and over to my hands. It's going to send a signal down and over to my knee, and it's going to tell my body what to do. So it's going to go all the way up, tell my brain what happened. My brain will decide and tell my body what to do, and then it'll send the signal to the appropriate places. So if I need to flex my arm and my knee to hold them together, then my brain would send those signals down and tell my body what to do. This happens for every single movement you make. So if I put my hand on a stove, My hand sends a signal up to my spinal cord. My spinal cord tells my brain, and my brain decides, oh, that's hot, so we need to move my hand. So it'll go back and send a signal back down telling my hand to move. And this, again, happens with every single response and stimulus that you come into. It just kind of depends what that stimulus is and how your response will be. So hopefully this kind of clears up any confusion. The problem with the nervous system is there's so much to it that it can be really confusing. So these are just kind of the basics to help you understand what's going on.